That's how important smoke alarms are. A very small amount of smoke will set it off. So it's important that everybody has a smoke alarm to save the life. As you can see, developing slowly. You can see now that the black smoke starting to fill up the room at the ceiling level. And as it gets on, the heat will intense. You very soon see vision disappear as the smoke intensifies. You can see
black smoke now billowing out.
yeah, and that's still quite a relatively small fire. It's just set the fire on the settee on fire. Now we can see the heat building up. As the heat layer increases in the ceiling, you see the candles start bending over. It's imperative that everybody has a look at smoke alarm as you can see in the demonstration. We're about just over 4 or 5 seconds into the fire as well. And already
Ladies themselves are still aiming to inform you that the smoke.
yeah, if the living room door was closed, you'd still be able to get past that without saying it's still quite small. But as it develops, as the heat generates inside the room, and you find that it spreads thicker until eventually that room now you wouldn't be able to support life, so you wouldn't be able to breathe. It's now sort of generating the heat, it will start affecting the room. About 2 to 2.5 minutes in, the generation of heat set fire to the room. And so eventually we're getting what we call a flashover, whereby the fire in the room is on fire. As you can see now, the blood on the floor, because there's a wall that's affecting the room, you can still actually see what's going on, but it's actually set fire to the carpet now. It's increasing, the temperature's increasing, as it builds up and goes over the ceiling. You can really hear when you can see it starting to move across the set fire to the table at the back. You can see the surface of the wall, it's almost now starting to cross. You can see the candle starting to on very shortly. You can see the lights on. Yeah, all the lights on. And this is how quickly the fire in the room is set off. Now that is the flame blowing out in the place. Fire in the room.
Two years ago, the home that Steve Blacklock had taken nearly a decade to build was gutted by fire. The house was ruined, but the one thing the fire didn't claim was the lives of Steve and his family. They'd made a fire action plan where they worked out together what they would do in the event of a fire. Today we're looking at fire action plans and how you can go about working one out for your own home regardless of what house you live in. I'm joined today by Karen and Alan from Surrey Fire and Rescue. We're going to be asking them tips and advice later, and by the Cox family. Hi. Do you have a plan of action then if there were a fire? No.
Just run down the stairs.
No, we don't.
I think you'd want,
Get out
because you wouldn't know where the fire was or anything, so you'd sort of make it up on the spot, wouldn't you?
We'll be looking at making a fire action plan in more detail later on. But Alan, is there any kind of general safety measures that we can take to safeguard our home against fire?
Yes, Linda. In order to make a successful escape from fire, the first thing we need to be aware is that there is a fire. And I'm pleased to see that in this house we've got a couple of working smoke alarms, one here on the ground floor and there's another one upstairs. Other things we can do, of course, are closing doors, particularly at night before we go to bed. Closing doors, very important, particularly down here on the ground floor, to enclose the means of escape. moving through to lounge, we've got things like open fires or gas fires. Open fires need to have the fire doused and a guard put around them. Gas fires, of course, need to be turned off completely.
Yeah.
Other things, if there are smokers in the house particularly, make sure those ashtrays are emptied, all the cigarettes are out.
Yes.
Okay.
That's great advice, Alan. Thanks very much. Now, I better let you get ready, hadn't I? Because we're about to put our family under a bit of a challenge. We're sending them to bed early, and we've got a couple of smoke generators to give us some kind of idea at least of what it's like to have a fire in the house. Now, when they hear that smoke alarm, they have got to get out of the house as quickly as possible, and we're going to time them.
That's a smoke alarm, definitely. Yeah. All right. Oh, dear, oh dear. Boys!
They out.
Come on.
They haven't looked.
All right.
Yeah.
Downstairs. One more step down here, come on. Hold each other's hands.
I can't see it.
Just hold each other's hands. You got the key, Sam?
I don't know. I don't know. Don't ask me.
Come on. Come on. Come on, guys. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's smoke in here. Keys. Come on.
Here they come. Okay, stop the clock, Alan. How did you do?
Well, not bad, but I think with a proper action plan in place, you could have done a lot better.
How do you think it went, guys?
Smoke was blinding, very
Was
blinding.
it?
Yeah.
You couldn't
yeah.
see your way forward
Couldn't
at
see
all.
at all.
Swallowed
No,
half
worse than
of it.
darkness.
Swallowed half. Now that's a good point actually, because although we're dealing with pretend smoke, but real smoke would be difficult, wouldn't
If you
it?
swallow some real smoke, it's choking, it's thick, it's black, it's hot. A couple of breaths of that, your oxygen supply is cut off, you'd be unconscious within a few seconds. You would hopefully naturally get low, because that's the only place you're going to find some decent air to breathe.
Okay. So what did you do when the door was shut, locked?
Went through to the kitchen door, opened that, went out the kitchen door.
Okay. So is that the right thing to do?
Well, they've obviously got to find an alternative way out. But I did notice that when you went to the kitchen door, you opened it without checking it.
Straight through
And
there.
it's very important, because the fire could have spread to the other side of that door. And you don't want to be opening a door and walking into something worse.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
So how would they do that? Just check.
feel the door with the back of your hand.
Oh.
You don't want to injure the palm of your hand
Oh,
with
okay.
heat. So
Oh,
the
right.
back of the door,
It would be that hot.
it could possibly be that hot, particularly the handle.
Well, I think you know where it can be improved then, don't you?
Yep.
Well, I'm going to leave you with Alan so that you can work together on your fire action plan.
Okay.
All right. And while they're doing that, here are a few points to bear in mind for when you are making your fire action plan.
Think about how you could escape from your house if your normal route was blocked. Keep your exits clear. Plan. Make sure anyone who needs to get out in an emergency knows where the keys are kept so they can easily open doors or windows. Tell everyone. Take everyone into account. Make sure that everyone in your household knows what to do if there is a fire in your home. Be safe. If your escape routes are blocked, it may be safer for you to stay in your home until the fire brigade arrives.
What do they do when they're waiting for the fire brigade?
Okay, this doesn't just apply to people with mobility problems, but this is to anyone. What you should be doing is looking at finding a safe room in the house so that everybody knows that if you have a fire and you can't get out, that you can go to this room and it is a safe room.
So what makes a safe room then?
Okay, I'll show you.
What sort of things are we looking for?
Right, we're looking for somewhere preferably that's got large windows so that we can get out. This room is ideal, to be honest. We have windows leading out to the back garden and we have a flat roof just outside there. So if they have to go out of the window, it's not a large drop, they can go onto the flat roof first. The next thing we need to do is obviously close the door. That's the most important thing because we've got smoke coming in, so we want to keep it away from us.
Okay.
So we'll shut the door, and then if we're in the bedroom, we can look around. If there's duvets, pillows, we have something down here beside you.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is cover up the gaps.
Okay, yeah. And
So
that's
that-
just at the bottom, isn't it?
Yes, you can't really do anything with the top, unfortunately, but you can usually have quite a large gap at the bottom, and just by doing that you'll prevent all the smoke from coming through. If you have a phone in the room, which we have, whether it's a house phone or a mobile phone, we can then call the fire service.
Right.
So we don't want to be going into different rooms trying to pick up a telephone to call the fire service. So if we have one in a room that's been planned, then it's ideal, so we can then call them.
Well, our family have been creating their own fire action plan. I think they're ready to improve on their last effort. I'm just going to get out of here.
Keep holding my hand.
Hand, Ryan.
Yeah. Keep holding it on the bandage on the way down as well.
You guys all right?
Yeah.
I've got the keys.
Go on.
Okay. Bit better, yes? How have they done?
Much better. Yes, very good. Well done.
Good, good. Well, hopefully all this has given you some idea of how important it is to make a fire action plan in your own house. Maybe you've already got some ideas that you can implement yourself. It makes sense. Don't wait until it's too late.
What's happened there? The children's put the call in again. Station officers here arrived first, checked it out, nothing, nothing. So I went again, children, false alarm.
It was a wild goose chase that sent fire engines to Blackpool's Victoria Hospital in 1996. At the same time, a house caught fire nearby. With the closest fire station busy at the hospital, engines from a neighbouring station were sent instead. John Wrench and Dave Sanderson were first into the house.
Well, we couldn't see anything when we got into the room. It was just black. We just had to feel our way around. After about a few seconds, John shouted to me that he'd found a child, and the timing was great because the window just came in at the same time. So I knew a ladder was there, and so it was just great. John passed Jason on to me, and then we both passed him onto the ladder. So we couldn't see anything. It was just total blackness.
The child was 5-year-old Jason Walsh.
Saw the fireman going into the room, and it was searching. I had a light with him, searching amongst all the smoke, and I saw him carrying him out.
They passed him down the ladder, and I received him because I was the only firefighter left outside at that stage. Managed to get a response from him. We got a faint pulse, and I remember him clearly coughing, spluttering quite noticeably, which cheered me up because I thought, yes, okay, he's been in a serious fire, but at least now we've managed to, rescue him from that fire, and there's a chance that this little fella will live.
We finally got to the hospital. We was both separated. I was put on oxygen, and Debbie went through with Jason. And for 1 minute, Debbie tells me he sat up, and Debbie thought, oh, right, it's all over. And then they pronounced him dead.
5-year-old Jason Walsh died in a fire at his home in Blackpool this morning. 2 fire engines stationed nearby were delayed getting to the scene because they'd been called out minutes earlier to a false alarm at the town's Victoria Hospital.
There is a station closer to Manor Road than us, that's Blackpool. They were out on a hoax call, which meant we took longer to get there than they would, and it's very possible that made the difference.
If you start thinking about that, it makes it even harder, because I think that he's not here, and if you think like, well, they must do 4 minutes or whatever.
Don't do it. Even if your friends ask you to, if they dare you to do it, it really isn't worth it. At the end of the day, it's not a game. It costs lives. It certainly cost Jason his life.
It's been deliberately taken from us. Yeah.
And he'd be here.
That person knows deep down that they cost Jason his life, and I wouldn't want to live with that.
Restraints are effective at reducing injuries in crashes, but they need to be used properly. This is a 30-mile-per-hour crash test with 4 occupants: a male adult, a teenager, a toddler, and an infant. Neither the teenager nor the toddler in the back is wearing a seatbelt. The child in the front is restrained in a rear-facing infant carrier, and the adult is wearing a seatbelt and is protected by an airbag. Look what happens as the car crashes. Because the teenager is not wearing a seatbelt, he violently hits the driver and both are seriously injured. Had there been an adult in the back, the injuries would almost certainly have been worse. The toddler travels through the car, past the front seats, and hits the mirror and screen with his head and pelvis, almost certainly causing fatal injuries. The child in the infant carrier is in a seat protected by an airbag, but as the airbag explodes, it hits the carrier with such force that the child would have suffered fatal injuries. Airbags are very effective at protecting restrained adults, but you should never fit a rear-facing infant carrier in a seat with an airbag in front of it. The teenager should have been wearing a seatbelt. The toddler should have been in a child seat, and the baby should have been in an infant carrier in the back seat of the car. It's essential that all car passengers and drivers are properly restrained and that restraints are used correctly. Think. Make sure they're secure.